All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football for you, the smart fan. All right, we're talking USC football tonight with Keely Eure. You can catch her on 24/7 Sports at uscfootball.com. Keely, how you doing tonight?
Good, good. Glad to be back.
Definitely. Thank you so much for coming on
Yeah.
to get us caught up on a number of items. So we'll start with a downer, and then we're going to work our way up from there. Let's do that.
Alrighty, sounds good.
Joseph Lewis, five-star wide receiver, unfortunately, domestic violence case that is extremely serious, arrested on felony domestic violence. This not a good situation, came down about a week ago.
Yeah, just an unfortunate situation all around. I think USC's security people were involved, and then once they knew what happened, the LAPD was contacted, and then he was eventually arrested. And then we know from USC's history, once the LAPD gets involved, that's kind of it for you. I can't see USC really having Joseph Lewis back on the team, especially with felony charges. His court date is actually set for the start of USC's spring practice. So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening that day. But it's just an unfortunate situation, especially because people thought he was going to be able to do something this season, but he probably won't be on the team going forward.
Yeah, so it's always my bottom line thought in a situation like that. Obviously, the football is secondary, need to deal with the situation, and just so justice is served one way or the other.
Agreed.
All right, let's lift it up from there and focus on the coaching situation. So we talked last time about Clay Helton's detractors, but they may not necessarily be in the USC athletic department or administration because he's got himself a contract extension.
He does, yeah. It actually was announced the day before National Signing Day, so that was a little bit of craziness before the more madness happened. But I think it was a vote of confidence to try and help seal the deal with some of the guys who were being negatively recruited against USC. We're like, oh, Clay Helton he doesn't have contract security. So I think they nailed that down to kind of get those last guys sealed. But I think it was for the situation that they had, you had to extend Helton. Lynn Swann put out a statement. He has full confidence in Helton. He believes Helton can take him to a national championship. So we don't have any details on his contract. They did not disclose his contract details. And since USC is a private school, we can't just FOIA that. We can't get any information. So that is unknown, but definitely interesting news coming for Helton.
And it wasn't just Clay Helton.
No, yeah. So a couple of weeks later, T. Martin, the offensive coordinator, and Clancy Pendergast, the defensive coordinator, both got extended. We don't know the details with their contracts either, but it's definitely security for USC, continuity for USC, which they haven't really seen in a while with their coaching staff. So I think that definitely helps, and it helps the recruits. I know I saw one recruit quote tweet the extension and say stability is key. So I think that's something that they're preaching to the recruits too. So that's definitely what Helton wants going forward, stability in this program. And that was something that people liked about Helton, especially the players when he first started, was that stability. So at least USC will have stability going forward. So, but he did say at the National Signing Day press conference, he got questions about his extension, Helton did. And he said that I know that production is key. He said that he would like to be at USC for the rest of his career. But he did say he was self-aware and knows that in order to do that, you have to produce at USC. You have to get to that top level, New Year's Six, national championship, Pac-12 winner, so he's self-aware and he knows that he has to produce to keep that his legacy at USC, which he wants. So,
Keely, if they're spinning their wheels in 5 years and he's not quite getting it done, that would be one thing. But he jumps on at the end of 2015, so you got to dismiss that. He turns it around from 1-3 to win a Rose Bowl, finish in the top 5 in the nation. The next year, they win the Pac-12 for the first time since Pete Carroll. And they get to a Cotton Bowl, and sure, the Notre Dame game was ugly. The Ohio State game, to a lesser extent, ugly. So I get the thought that, oh, can we compete with the best teams? That being in the back of people's minds. But in terms of bottom line wins and losses, getting to championship games, the Rose Bowl win caps off one season, the Pac-12 championship the next season. So there are good things to build on here that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, and that was the interesting thing is, I think a lot of fans had, of course, a negative reaction to the Ohio State game, but that was how you ended the 2017 season. So a lot of reactionary things from fans. So, sorry, I just got a text. Can I start over? Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I cut this up.
Okay. Can you ask me the question again? Sorry, let me put my computer on Do Not Disturb. I just got like a bunch of text. Okay, we're good.
Anytime.
Okay. What did you say? What was the question? Sorry.
Basically that, people get impatient, but at the same time, it's not like he's been in this for 5 years, kind of spinning his wheels. He won the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And then won the Pac-12.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of fans were disappointed, obviously, with how the Ohio State game went. And that's how you cap the 2017 season. And I got some tweets that were like, fire Helton. And I'm like, how can you say that? If you wrote down everything that Helton was able to do in the last 2 seasons, that's impressive. You can't, Lynn Swann can't go to Helton and say he's not performing, because he is performing well. Obviously, there's things that need to be cleaned up, but that he's in his going into his 3rd full year, as you mentioned. So I think you have to give Helton time. I know a lot of fans weren't happy with how he became the coach at that time period, how he was interim, and then Pat Hayden just gave him the job. But at this point, Clay Helton's head coach. You got to be happy with him, and I think you're in for the long haul for a little bit. So I think fans just have to stay put. He's done well. He's proven himself with things that matter. And I think this is the right thing going forward at this point.
So you're the expert. This is the reason we have you on, Keely. But I hear from other USC people not to expect much in 2018. The things that I know is that this is the best roster in the division. So there should be no reason not to expect a division championship. And once you get to that point, you're obviously playing for the Pac-12. The other thing is that obviously the recruiting classes have been really good. You don't expect a whole lot from this class to be impactful, but you're going to need a handful of guys to step up and fill spots. So what are the expectations? What are the concerns for this season for people that really know USC football and aren't expecting too much? What's reasonable?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's the question going into the season. As far as people from this class who could impact, I mean, JT Daniels could be that guy. The reason why expectations aren't that high is because we don't know who the quarterback is at this point. I don't think spring will decide that, because JT Daniels cannot be an early entrant. So he'll be there for the latter portion of June, getting team workouts with the team. But then it's going to be Jack Sears and Matt Fink for the spring, battling it out. And that's the big question going forward. Is Helton going to pull a Max Brown, Sam Darnold? Maybe start with the guy who's more safe, maybe Matt Fink, maybe Jack Sears. And then if things don't go well, they go to JT Daniels as like the spark. So it could be a redo of the 2016 season, but it's very curious to see how that goes, especially because they have a tough schedule in 2018. They're going to be on the road at Stanford and on the road at Texas. And then they come back and they have a Friday game with Washington State, which is not going to be easy. So those first games in September were going to be rough, and USC could have a losing record in September. So it really could be a redo of the 2016 season. So I think with the youth that's on the offense, not knowing who the quarterback is at this point, not knowing if they will do well under the circumstances, I think it's smart to say that expectations shouldn't be too high, although expectations are always high at USC. So I think to be cautious going into the season and not expecting too much would be your best bet.
And then if they've got a losing September, then your Twitter's really going to blow up about Clay Helton.
Yes, it will. We'll probably fire all these people, put in this guy. Yeah, people are pretty crazy on Twitter.
So it appears as though Stephen Carr might be the next guy in line. Of course, this is the school with the most illustrious history when it comes to tailbacks. And there's no reason to believe that he's not the next guy. I know that you just wrote a story on that. What was your basic take on Stephen Carr's role and his play in 2018 coming up?
Stephen Carr is going to be really interesting to watch, not just on the field and how well he plays. It's an interesting dynamic for him going into this spring right now, because he doesn't know who his running back coach is. The veteran running back that helped him, Ronald Jones, is now gone. And the guy on the field who called the shots, Sam Darnold, is also gone. So he's coming into spring not having any of the three guys who helped him so much and helped him to be so good as a freshman. And so he's kind of, my colleague talked to him, and he's kind of switched hats. He's no longer the young guy. He's no longer the freshman. He's ready to lead. He said, I'm ready to be a leader. His main goal in spring is to show everyone how he wants to be a leader, which I think is really interesting because he's more of a quiet guy, or he was last season. And he said he feels comfortable with the playbook enough where he'll tell the younger, inexperienced quarterbacks, hey, this is where you're supposed to be. Hey, this is the blocking scheme, which I thought was interesting because Sam Darnold was the guy telling him, hey, this is what's happening. This is the play. So we're kind of seeing the maturation of Stephen Carr, and it's happening pretty fast because he's going to go into his sophomore year. So I just think it's interesting how he has recognized that his role needs to change, and he's willingly accepting it and knowing that change to be the guy in fall, to be that starter, starts in spring. So it's just interesting seeing how he's already there mentally, even though everything around him is very uncertain, his coach. And that's one of the things we can talk about is USC still doesn't have a running backs coach right now. And we're heading into spring camp in less than 2 weeks. So that will be a quick turnaround to try and figure out who that's going to be and how he gets in with the fellow players. So it'll be interesting.
All right. We're talking up the Trojans with Keely Eure. You can join her and the rest of the staff there at uscfootball.com. They've got a YouTube channel. Check that out as well with a ton of analysis on the Trojans. All right, Keely, spring football in a few weeks. Hopefully we can have you back at some point to catch us up on everything going on. And keep in the back of your mind, maybe when it's really slow, like in May or June, I want to hear about what USC football games like do you think of they come to mind as like, this was just the best. This was the best game I ever saw. This was the most exhilarating win for whatever reason. It was over UCLA or a Pac-12 championship game, whatever it was. And then what just crushed the spirit, just those excruciating losses, a last second loss, losing to Stanford again, whatever it is.
Okay. I will keep that. I'll mull on that and you can have it back. I'll give you some good answers.
All right, Keely Eure, uscfootball.com. Keely, we appreciate the time.
Of course. Thank you.
All right.